Hello, good evening. Peace be with you. I will try to share with you some views about what is happening today in the Middle East, in Palestine, and in which way we have to react and to understand what is happening today. Because what we are seeing and what we are witnessing today is quite worrying, and the fact that the leaders and the intellectuals, the scholars from the Muslim majority countries, are some of them are vocal and other are completely silent, and the governments are just saying we are going to help. If you don't stop, we are going to do something, and trying to be reactive without doing anything, while we are witnessing the worst in Palestine, in Gaza today. It's important for us to have a better understanding, a deeper take on how we have to deal with the issue and in which way we have to react. Living in Western majority and in the West, in countries where the public opinion is misled by this media propaganda that we are witnessing day in and day out. And it's quite important for us to get a better understanding of what is happening and in which way we have to react to this while dealing with the issue. What we can see today is that many of the leaders, many of the scholars in what is now said by some of the leaders and the scholars, either it's directed towards the Muslims and the Arabs and the Africans, and it's as if we are talking to one another, to ourselves, and the way we have to reach out and the way we have to talk to the West and the way we have to understand and in which way. It's much better now than it was before, but still, I think it's important to get the fact that we need to be much more vocal and much more in touch with the reality and the public opinion and the emotions and the understanding of the common ordinary fellow citizens in the West. Having said that, now what I want to share is really to put some critical questions. It's as if with Palestine, it's all déjà vu, as we say in French, and it's important for us to say, okay, what is happening today and how do we have to react to this? Because it's as if we are dealing with an intellectual trap when it comes to how we are going to deal with the issue. Intellectually speaking, if we are not fit, if you don't get the whole picture, we are going to be trapped, and it's going to be very difficult to react. It's as if, you have first to respond to some or to address some condemnation that are expected from you before even being able to talk about the issue and to talk about Palestine. And it's a political dead end. At the same time, it's as if there is no solution here, and it's difficult just to find a way to deal with our politicians in the West and to deal with the way they are dealing with the issue in this blind support. It's as if they are becoming quite emotionally driven, crazy about the whole issue. It's as if the common sense is lost in the whole picture. And the media propaganda in the United States of America or in the European country, and especially today in France, it's quite worrying, because we see that they are not even addressing the issue of, are we talking about human beings? Are we talking about Palestinians? Are you completely obsessed with this wording that you are using? You say, okay, it's Israel versus Hamas, and Hamas is a terrorist organization, so it's a state, a democracy versus terrorists. So having said this, the equation it's done. It's over. There is nothing to add. You just have to take side, and you are going to take side with the democratic state, as if there is nothing else at stake in the whole picture, without any historical perspective, without understanding what is going on in the region. So having this is an introduction, and let us address 5, 6 critical questions here. The first one has to do with the terminology, because if you when you enter into a discussion, it's quite important to just to address what are the words and the wordings and how are we using the words in order to portray the people who are involved in the conflict. And as I said, today is we're not talking about Palestinians. We're not talking about Palestine. We are talking about Hamas. And as in the United States of America and in Europe, it's considered as a terrorist organization, which is not the case in the great majority of the countries around the world. The global South, supported by many, South African country, and you know what Nelson Mandela said about the Palestinians, about Hamas, and even China. They are not considering them as a terrorist organization, but an organization, a resistant organization. Having said that, the point is that when you deal with the Western media today, what you have is really now to reduce the reality of Palestine to an organization, qualifying this organization as terrorist, and say, okay, it's against the state, a democracy, and in the name of the rule of law, you have but to support Israel against terrorists. But that's not the point. If you come to the reality is we are talking today, and when it comes to what is happening now in Gaza, it's really clear that we're not talking about Hamas. They are not going to kill Hamas. They are killing children. More than almost now 800 children have been killed in Gaza. More than 2,000 people, and the wounded are even much more than that. So the point is, stop playing with words and just address the reality. And the reality is, beyond your rhetoric and the propaganda that is spread to all around by the media in the West, that it's as if, because it's a retaliation against Hamas, so everything is possible. So having said this, the starting point is to refuse this terminology and say, okay, you know what? We are on the side of the Palestinians. You know what? Because we are on the side of the victims, and we are always on the side of the victims. And this is the positioning that we need to have every time. We have to be consistent with it. On the side of the Tibetans, on the side of the Black and the African Americans, for example, when they are victims of injustice, or the South African Black resistance when they were facing apartheid. Because the reality is also that what is happening is really apartheid in Palestine. That's the reality of it. So I will come to this later, but the starting point is to address this question of terminology and not to fall into the trap of accepting it, and then you don't know how to get out of it. Now, this is the first point. Coming to the second point is the positioning that we have. And we saw this with some of the representatives of Palestine when they came to the media. It happened on CNN, it happened on the BBC, it happened everywhere. So the first is, okay, you come here to talk about Palestinians and Palestine. Now, first question. Do you condemn what happened, the killing of the civilians in Israel and the killing of the innocent people? Do you condemn this? I say, okay, look, we understand what we are saying, and that's not the way we are going to start this discussion. So by putting us in a situation where you are on the defensive, while you know what, it didn't start last Saturday. It started more than 60 years ago. And the West was involved from day one in the whole process. So don't come as spectators now by telling us, oh, you have to condemn what happened to Israelis and what happened against the Israeli civilians. Let us now come to the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is, okay, you want us to condemn. So I have some question. I want to question your questions. I want to question the way you are putting the whole story in perspective. You want us to condemn. So could you please respond to some of the questions that I have now? Do you condemn the fact that Israel has not respected and enforced the US resolution, more than dozens of UN resolutions not respected and not enforced by the Israelis, the successive Israeli governments? Do you condemn, yes or not? So tell us, because if you want condemnation, we are ready. But you start with the historical perspective. Do you condemn the illegal settlements and the occupation of the Palestinian lands beyond what was agreed upon through the UN resolution and the peace processes, or the so-called peace processes? Do you condemn, yes or no? Do you condemn the ongoing colonization through these illegal settlements? Do you condemn, yes or no? Do you condemn the destruction of homes by people? And when you are talking about civilians and when you are talking about innocent civilians, we have also to deal with settlers. And these are armed settlers. They are able to kill and even supported by the Israeli army. So do you condemn this? Do you condemn that they come and they throw people away from their home and they destroy their homes illegally against all the conventions and then the legal framework within which we are dealing here? Do you condemn this distraction, yes or no? So you want to start the story last Saturday. We want to put it in the only way and through the only prism through which we have to look at it, which is the historical one, because it has been a long time where you have been so silent. To come now to ask the people to condemn, where you were so silent and always silent when it came to say the truth about what is happening in Palestine. So now, then, when you have these settlers coming and killing and killing women and killing children and beating them, do you condemn this? Yes or no? And do you call them, as you are calling innocent civilians as well? The settlers that are coming and they are supported by the army to kill, to beat, to torture even the Palestinians and to take their lands with no right. Do you condemn this? Because at the end of the day, we are talking here about the United Nations resolutions. We are talking about the legal framework. We are talking about the rule of law that is not even respected by the Israeli. So when you refuse to condemn, how come you come now asking to condemn the reaction to a dehumanized way of dealing with the Palestinians for so long? So this is when, for example, we're killing now. Yes, you know what? They have killed children and beheaded them. No, we know now that this are fake news. And you did it before, by the way, not only in Israel, but we know how it works. In order to justify the war in Iraq, we had this accusing the army of Saddam Hussein of going to with babies and to kill them. And this was the justification for the public, the American public opinion, to go to war. And then you were in the name, and because what happened in 2001 in the United States of America, we went to kill innocent people. How many Iraqi innocent women and children and men and women were killed after what was the starting of the war, the Gulf War, based on, and then after the weapon of mass distractions, so many lies, this media propaganda and this war propaganda, just to justify the killing of innocent people. It's as if when they are Arabs and Africans and black people, it's as if it's less important. They have less value. Tell me, how many lives of Africans or Arabs or Muslims equal the life of one Israeli or American? How many? 1,000, 2,000? You need to have 2,000 Palestinians killed in order to equal the life of one Israeli? Because this is the counting that we have. How your accounting works? How? Let us know, because this is worrying today to see what is happening on the ground, which is unacceptable, which is dehumanization of an entire population. And in order to justify this, they say, oh, no, we're not talking about Palestinians. We are dealing with Hamas. That's not true. And you know it's not true. This is a lie. This is a lie. You are killing innocent Palestinians and not respecting the rights of Palestinians and the Palestinian people. It has nothing to do with Hamas. Hamas, in the way they are resisting, you like it or not, it's a movement that has come out of this resistance. And now, if you want to deal with it, you have to deal with Palestinians and not to justify, in the name of their resistance, the fact that you are ready to kill innocent people. Because if you are this collective punishment that you are accepting today in the West is just unbearable. It's intolerable. This is not acceptable. That's something that is cannot be. So I carry on with the condemnation. Do you condemn the killing of more than 140 children only in 2022? Palestinian children. Do you condemn that over the year since the 1st January 2023 up to now, every day 3 Palestinians on average have been killed? Do you condemn this? Yes or no? Or are you going to be silent and just start the counting and everything? The condemnation process should start last Saturday. No memory, no dignity, no justice, and you want to promote a better understanding and a peace process, you're not going to achieve anything while you are lying on facts, when you have no memory, when you are not dealing with the truth, when you are not ready to give the Palestinians their right, because this is the point, and this is why it should start. So when it comes to what is said by Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, talking about apartheid, what is happening. And even for some, Ilan Pape, for example, Israeli new historian, saying it's even worse than in South Africa, the way the apartheid was set and working on the ground. So, by the way, you have been quite supportive with the process of the apartheid system in South Africa for a long time, isn't it? United States of America, even, by the way, the Israeli governments were supporting, and so many in the name of your political and geostrategic interests. So it's only, and you said exactly the same about Nelson Mandela that you said about Hamas, terrorists, until he became this big figure, where you were so proud of him while you denied his dignity for so many years. 27 years in house arrest and in prison. This was his fate with the whole process. So when it comes to us today, and when it comes to this, we have to be quite clear about this. Do you condemn? Do you condemn what is called in Israel low intensity torture? So this process where you torture somebody and with a doctor by your side, just to tell you, don't go too far, in order not to leave some marks on anything visible. There shouldn't be nothing on the body. Just this is the low intensity torture. And this is what is happening in the Israeli jails, with so many children being jailed and tortured, and so many are killed. And the summary execution that we have day in and day out in Israel. Let me ask you another question about, do you condemn? Because it's as if today Netanyahu, it's becoming quite acceptable. He seems to be in the middle, in the center. It's not an extremist. He's not a far right political figure. While we know who he is and the way he is dealing, he's very dangerous, and he is an extremist. But not only him. It's now understood to be someone from the center, because in his own government you have people who are even worse than him, more extremists than him. And you have to have Ben Gvir, for example, a terrorist, someone who was talking about the Arabs and the Muslim and the Palestinians as just beasts and animals. Exactly what Yoav Gallant said. And this was, we are going to treat them the way they are, as animals. Do you support these people? Do you support these people? You come to talk to us, the global South, because there is a big fracture today between what is happening in the West and the global South and the public opinions throughout the world. Say, you come to lecture us about rule of law, about international resolutions, international law. It's the international order and then the international community and the common sense, while you are supporting crazy extremists in Israel. You are supporting people who are now saying that they are going to destroy Gaza, and they are just, we know the process. We know the process where you announce the worst just to normalize the bad. This is exactly what we know how it works in with this. So say, okay, you know what? We are going to invade Gaza, and meanwhile we are bombing and killing people and innocent and civilians, while now we are saying, you know what, we are not going to start the military process on the ground and entering into Gaza. We're going to wait because we want the people to find a protection, a sense of compassion. Really, seriously, are you serious? Are you playing with the human dignity? Is this the way you are supporting? And in the name of this retaliation, that is the whole process, and normalizing the way Netanyahu and the Israeli government say we are not pacifist and we retaliate, and they are going to see the way we are going to deal with them. They are going to regret what they are doing, and it's as if in the name of the Israeli emotional reaction, were ready to lack any respect and to show no respect to any UN resolution, any international conventions, because all what they are doing, cutting electricity, water, and food, and even not letting the people get access to medical support. This is against the international law. This is against the Geneva Convention. This is against all the civilized agreements that we have. It's against it's war crimes, and you accept this because of what happened last week, forgetting what happened over the last 70 years. This is unacceptable. And this is why many citizens around the world cannot follow you, cannot accept, cannot trust you. There is a lack of trust. We don't trust. And so many, the global South, don't trust the Western leaders, don't trust the Western media. There is no trust. You know what? Because, well, you are not trustworthy. You are not. And you are not truthful. We know this, and we are experiencing this. Having said this, the second question is that, because we are supporting Palestinians, and in fact, if you are supporting Palestinians, it means that you are supporting extremists and terrorists, and it means that there is anti-Semitism in the whole process. Well, I'm sorry. If you read some of the new Jewish historians and Israeli historians, and many Jewish intellectuals, in the way they are critical towards the Israeli successive governments and policy. In fact, it's because we share the values with Judaism, not because there is something called anti-Semitism. By the way, as a Muslim, anti-Semitism is anti-Islamic. It's because we value and we love these values, and they are shared values between Judaism and Islam and Christianity, that it's in the name of the Jewish principles and values that we are against the Israeli policies and the Zionist political endeavors. It's exactly the opposite. It's not because of anti-Semitism. It's much more because of Judeo-phily, as we call it. That in the name of our support of the Jewish principles, the Jewish values, the deep Jewish tradition, which has the same roots as the Christian tradition and the Islamic tradition, that we are against what is happening in Israel. And let me tell you something. I'm a Muslim, and of course, I'm supportive and I promote the Islamic values. And it's in the name of the Islamic values that I am against what is done by Muslim majority countries and governments in the Muslim majority countries. Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman, Maktoum in the UAE. These are people who are betraying the very essence of the Islamic values. So it's in the name of my love to the Islamic values and Islamic principles that I'm against these governments. So it doesn't make me an Islamophobe. It makes me someone who is criticizing the governments in the name of my principles. And I would love to see more and more Muslims doing the same. And as we have Jewish intellectuals doing the same against the Israeli government. So this is in the name of the Jewish principles and values that they are against the Israeli state. So it has nothing to do with anti-Semitism. Now, the third question and critical question here is, who is responsible of that? What is happening now? So, of course, what we have in the media today is, of course, the Palestinians are the one to be criticized, and they are responsible. Let us read what is written even in Israel. Haaretz, for example, writing at the very beginning of the whole process last Sunday, that in fact it's the extremist Israeli government who is responsible for what is happening. So saying that in fact this denying of the Palestinian rights, this dehumanization, this extremist policy that has been enforced and implemented over the last decades, and especially during the last years, is the true reason why this is becoming so. This happened last week, and why, in a state of despair, the Palestinians had no choice but to resist to what was happening. So putting the burden on the shoulders of the Israeli government. And this was a voice from within, not from outside. So if you get, the preamble of the Human Declaration and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, it is said that you have to protect human rights in order not to push the people to go to extremist reaction because of tyranny and oppression. This is written in the preamble of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So this is what is written, and in order for you to get justice and peace, you have to protect the dignity of the human beings before and beforehand and upstream from all the what is happening. This is what is expected by a government, but this is not what the Israeli government has been doing over the last decades. So now the first responsible for that is really the successive governments of Israel over the last years, not respecting the resolution, not respecting the Palestinian rights, not respecting the rules, and dehumanizing the presence. And as I told you, it's not only that they are saying that they are animals, they are treating them as such. If you just look at the way they are dealing with them at the checkpoints, these are, these are animals that are treated like this with no dignity. And the way they are dealt with at different levels within the administration is just the reality. Now, if we go further than that, it's important for us also to say that the Arab states, and we can see this today, it's just nice words and supporting the Palestinians. No, that's not possible. You let them down. That's the reality. So all these Arab governments and Muslim majority countries, they have nice words and bad policies and bad politics. They are really thinking about their own interest, their money, their relationship with the United States of America, the economic and anything that has to do with trades and money and corruption, because they are corrupt regimes. So at the end of the day, from where we are, it's important when we are based in the West to be able to say that, yes, Israel has the biggest and the first responsibility, but the Arab countries are playing into this. And when you see the normalization, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, and Qatar, and even you see with Turkey, with other countries, that they are dealing with with this, is as if in the name of their geostrategic interest, they are ready not to poof and see what is happening now. We are told that something is going to happen, that they are entering Gaza, and they have been killing so many people, more than 800 children, more than 2,000 people over, and we don't even know the exact figures. And just words. If you carry on, we are going to react. So what do you need more? What is expected more than what is happening now, just to react and to do something and to come together and to push the Israeli government to stop this immediately, and not just to announce that it's going to do the worst. So this is one. And then what is also to be added is the Western countries, and of course the American government, the European, the EU, European Union, and the way they are dealing, they are playing with this, and the way they are now not reacting to what Israel is doing, and even dealing and accepting to deal with the worst Israeli government since the very beginning of the creation of the state of Israel. These people are crazy and they are extremists, and they don't consider Palestinians as human beings, and you deal with them. So the Western countries, and we are Western citizens, so at one point we need to be clear on this. If this is happening, and what is happening to so many Muslims and Africans and Arabs and Black African Americans, for example, in the West, is very often dealt with, because these voices, they are part of the global South. They are echoing what is happening in the global South by expressing a support towards the Palestinians and being very critical towards the Western policies, because these policies are based on injustices, lack of dignity, and lack of real concern towards the people, not only towards the resources and the economic resources and money and economy. We're talking here about human beings. So having said this, we understand that this is something which is also for us to be clear about the Western, our countries, our governments, our leaders are dealing with the issue in a way which is not acceptable. So we have to to stop being the silent majority. The problem with the silent majority is that this silence is just a lack of courage. Recently, I was in a program in South Africa, and one of the panelists, a sister, was saying, you know, because I was saying there is something that I was unable, and I didn't find a way to teach, was courage, and say, at least the Palestinians are showing us what courage means. And she's right. In fact, she's right. The courage is coming from these people who are showing us how do you face this the reality and the suffering and the lack of justice and the lack of dignity and oppression day in, day out. The what we can add to who is responsible is the media and this propaganda, because it's really a war propaganda, and so a war media propaganda in the way they are just not portraying the reality, starting 7 days ago, as I said, and forgetting the historical process. And this is a lie. This is not acceptable. So once again, if I slap you and I start to film just after you react, and I say, oh, you see, you are the violent person, I'm lying, because I didn't start by showing that I was slapping you from the very beginning. So it started with me slapping you. And this is exactly what is happening with Palestinians. Oh, don't speak about what happened before. Just what happened last Saturday in the morning shows that these are extremists, and what happened before, forget about it. That's not acceptable. And we should, as I said, question the reality of this discourse. And let me say something as well. So the silent majority is also responsible. I'm sorry to say that too many, among the scholars and people living in some Muslim majority countries, they are silent. Living in the West, they are silent, scared of being portrayed, scared of being targeted. And it's just unbelievable, this lack of courage that we are showing, and this lack of concern. And only emotional. So we come where there is these attacks, or when there is this unacceptable way of dealing with Palestinians. And in between, we forget that every day it's going on. It's going on, oppression and oppression and oppression, and we are silent. And this silence and this lack of concern is just not expressing and translating a dignified way of dealing with reality and dealing with the victims. And by the way, once again, I don't want only to talk about Palestinians, because this concern should be for all the victims around the world, Muslim or people of other faiths. Wherever there are victims, our heart should not be far. Our heart should not be far from the victims, as our heart should not be far from the poor. So this is also something that we have to repeat and to get and to digest deep down of our being and our heart and our faith, as part of our way of dealing with truth and dignity in the world. And the last thing that I wanted to add about who is responsible, also to say something about the Israeli people, because when Hamas was elected, the world wanted to punish the Palestinians for having elected Hamas, which is wrong. They have the right to elect whoever they want, but you are responsible of the people who are representing you. And when we see today that the great majority of the Israeli people are supporting far-right parties, supporting even Netanyahu now, there is, in the name of this emotional reaction, we are supporting the worst and accepting that we are killing in our name. So I'm happy to see that in New York, for example, you had Jewish people coming saying, not in our name. not in our name. We don't want to support this. And I think that this is also something that we have to celebrate. It would be good as well to be part of this by saying and expecting from some people in Israel, say no, we that you have some voices, soldiers, intellectuals, but it's not enough, and the great majority are supporting this crazy endeavor and this crazy positioning coming from the Israeli government. Now, I wanted just to end with something which I think we have to get. The majority of we are told that the great majority of the European populations and American population, the United States of America, are supporting of Israel. I'm not sure. I'm not sure that this is the great. This is an optic illusions. When it's come with this media propaganda by day in day out, and you have this. You can find this through the social media. You can find it for traditional media. They are supporting and trying to give the Israeli narrative and to normalize it. But the way they are doing it, it's so powerful and it's so permanent that you get a sense that it's done because there is a feeling that the people are not completely convinced. They don't trust the politicians. They don't trust the media. Not anymore. They are not. So they might not be courageous enough to speak out. They might not be ready to expose themselves. But the feeling is not as they are saying. So it's out of fear that they do not express. But deep down, more and more people in the West feel that there is something wrong in the whole process. And when the European people were asked about who is, what is, which is the country which is the most dangerous country for peace in the world, they responded Israel. And then Prodi at that time said, oh, it was the question was wrongly put, just to excuse. But the point was that really the feeling is, so you have within and among the people in the West a feeling that, and especially with what is happening now, it's too much. It's too much. This is, to normalize the bad by announcing the worst, which is what I explained before, is something which is now this sense of arrogance that it's too much. And they don't like Netanyahu. They don't like this government, the great majority of the people around us. So whatever is this, the leaders and the presidents and even, Biden and going to talk with all this and to support and to send military support and money, that's fine. But at the end of the day, get it. If we in the West are ready to pay the price of a courageous discourse based on facts, on history, on equal rights, by saying one state for both, equal rights, and stop this ongoing colonization, ongoing settlements, ongoing dehumanization, and let the people live together. And this is what we want. So there is something that it is already understood and heard. And the global fracture is really this one, is that when you go to Latin America, when you go to African countries, when you go to Asian countries, they don't like the Israeli policy. And it's known. So it's not because it's the most powerful country that today, economically speaking, are supporting Israel, that on the long run is going to last. It's not. So we have to be positive. We have to be confident. We have to understand what is at stake here, while at the same time to never accept the unacceptable, to be clear about what I was trying to get the right terminology, to refuse the wrong equation, to promote a clear sense of who condemned what and what should be condemned and why it should be condemned. This is and the starting point of the whole process. Of course, we're against the killing of innocent people and civilians, but there is a difference, by the way, between settlers, as I said, and civilians and innocent civilians, because the way some are behaving is just another way of dealing military in a military way with the Palestinians on the ground. So despite the Western propaganda, the feeling here is that the the South, we need to get this, because this it should be misleading. It is misleading when you only watch and listen to what is coming out of the Western media. It's as if there is a brain watch, an ongoing process of disturbing your balance, disturbing your references and your understanding of the world. While at the same time, when you get this, you understand that this is something which is not going to work. It's not going to work, and it's not working. So let us be clear on this. And as I said, it happened before when in Afghanistan. Once again, what is happening now in Gaza is, okay, there are terrorists who are going to collectively punish the people. It happened in Afghanistan after 2001. It happened in Iraq, more than 500,000 people, and this was under a great Democrats, Bill Clinton. So it's much more about the American policy here, and the accounting of lives, as if the Arabs, the Africans, the Muslims count for nothing. So it's up to us as Western citizens, as human beings, wherever we are, in African countries, in Western countries, in Asian countries, to be clear on this. We are not going to keep quiet. We are not going to be silent. We are not going to be among the silent majority. We are vocal in the name of dignity, and nothing in what I said today, it's to be criticized by saying, "Oh, I'm supporting extremists." No, I'm supporting justice. I'm on the side of the victims. I'm on the side of all the victims throughout the world, and it's because of this that I am on the side of the Palestinians. I'm not going, and we are not going to keep quiet. We should not be silent, because this is our dignity. This is the way we have to be, and we are not going to accept this strategic distraction by pushing us in a corner, condemn this, condemn that, and avoiding the central and the critical question, which is, who is responsible? When did it start? And why have you been so silent for so long? That's the point, which is important. And by the way, let me just say something about this, because many of you were yesterday listening and say, "Oh no, now he lost credit because of what he did." Let me tell you something. In all what I'm facing today, it's because what I was saying, what I'm saying right here, this voice should be eradicated. They didn't want me to talk. They didn't want to hear my voice. So all this question of rape and accusation, the French government, the judiciary, they said, "Oh, it's international." At the end, they know that this is all fabricated. There is nothing like this. They used poor women and women asking for fame or asking for money just to destroy the reputation. It's something which has to do with not only Islamophobia, but the independent voice in the West. Born, raised, free in the West, ready to say what should be said and what should be right. So all this is fabricated in order to prevent me from speaking and prevent you from listening. And my brothers and sisters in humanity, Muslims are not, by the way, who are now buying the whole story. you don't get it. You don't know how they can destroy a reputation and why they are doing so. You have the answer right now to make the people disappear and for the people not to listen to this voice. That's the reality of it. And this is what is happening in France, what is happening in the judiciary today. And let me tell you, Islamophobia is not working only by targeting Muslim and stigmatizing them. It's also a moral assassination in order not to be heard. And if you don't get this, it means that you don't get the very beginning of the political game and this strategic distraction from the very essence of our struggle for justice, dignity, and freedom. Peace be with you, and I hope to come back and to discuss these issues in the future in other short live videos. Peace be with you, and may the light go along with you.